So typically when there's like a handful of days between league games, I get a little bit antsy if I'm not on the ice at least like 2 to 3 times a week. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like if you're only on the ice like once a week, it makes it that much harder each time you step on the ice, particularly for a league game to kind of get back into things. So between the last Direwolves game, we've had 10 days off in between games. So of course, what did I do? I looked for some extra ice just to make sure that I'm on the ice a little bit more. This usually could be like looking on Hockey Community if they need a sub, or just kind of like waiting by my phone where some people will usually call me up for like emergency backup situation. I'm gonna go over 4 skates in the last 6 nights. And the cool thing about being on the ice like this frequently, especially when you bring your camera with you, it's a really good time to kind of like film yourself and understand a little bit about how you're playing, what you're doing well and what you're not doing well, and it's kind of be your own coach. And when you're on the ice like that many times, you're able to kind of like just iron out things really quickly as opposed to kind of like letting things linger. So about halfway through this video, a light bulb kind of popped in my head and I kind of saw something that I really wanted to fix, and I think that little small tweak to my stance really helped in one of the upcoming games. So anyway, enough talking from me. Let's get on the ice and see what happened. So we're going to start things off at an arena called Kensington Arena. This is a newly renovated rink, so super nice facility and great ice. It's been a long time since I've actually seen myself skate, so I thought why not start recording now at the beginning of the fall season and show all of you where I'm at with my skating. I always feel really embarrassed to show this off to you guys because I'm definitely least confident with my skating and there's always so much to work on. If you have a few spare minutes, this is always a good idea to get some video of you just working on some basic movement before your shinny or game. I mean, how many of you out there feel like an NHL pro when you're on the ice, but then when you actually watch yourself, you kind of start to cringe? I mean, like when I'm doing these drills here, I feel like an absolute champ. But when I look at these videos, I'm like, yeah, there's definitely a lot of work to be done. Anyway, enough talking. Let's check out how the scrimmage went. So we're just going to end off the night with that goal there. The interesting thing about this skate is I actually broke my cat-eye cage, so I took a really hard wrist shot to the face, and a couple of the welds popped off. So luckily I do have a straight bar replacement as a backup, so going forward you're going to see me with a full-on straight bar chrome cage. Anyway, let's jump on to the next ice time. So next we're going to head off to a league game at the Richmond Ice Center. This is kind of like a last minute call up for the Misfits again. This division is, again, just way higher than I'm usually capable of playing, so it's really nice of them to call me up. So this is kind of like near the end of the second period, and if you look at the scoreboard, you know, everything's going pretty well. It's 5-0 going into the third, and I'm feeling pretty good about myself. Funny thing is, when I get to the bench during the intermission, the guys are like, hey, you getting cold out there? You want some more shots? And I kind of joke, yeah, I'm getting a little bit cold, I'll probably let in the next shot to get. It's too bad I couldn't get a camera on the other end out there because, unfortunately, what you're about to witness is possibly one of the biggest third period meltdowns I've been part of. So let's keep an eye on that scoreboard. Yes, so that's 7 goals against in the third, but we managed to squeak out the win. To be honest, even though it was complete collapse in third period, I actually didn't feel that bad about how I played. The other team decided to show up in the third period and really turned it up. Funny thing is I checked the stats before the game of who we're playing against. So that team that we just played against has an average of 9 goals a game over 5 games. So they definitely know how to put the puck in the net. They just didn't show up to the third period there. You know, it wasn't pretty, but I'll take it. That's my first win of the fall season. So immediately the night after, we're going to head off to the classic Britannia ice rink for some shinny with some older guys. Really casual, fun group and laid back. Another great opportunity to get some video during the warm-up. In the previous game videos, I mentioned my butterfly drop not closing up well enough, and I'm starting to get in this habit where I'm reaching with my pads. So when I actually reviewed the footage of my butterfly this night during the warm-up, I noticed that my stance on this last drop has a ton of overlap compared to the previous drops where the tops of the pads are actually butting up against each other. Now the difference between these two stances is not just the pad overlap, but where the one that I'm actually overlapping the pad, my knees are actually really close together versus being far apart. And this kind of like lit a light bulb in my head because it actually reminded me of the first time I worked with my coach. He kept telling me to get my damn knees together when I was in my stance. You just end up being more stable and you're able to put more power into your movements when your knees are closer together. So this was a total aha moment for me, and if I hadn't taken this video, I wouldn't have noticed it. Anyway, let's see how this night went. So 2 nights later, we're going to jump onto the ice one more time at Sunset Arena. And this last ice time is a league game with the Direwolves, and normally I would do a full video on these games, but we had a lot of camera troubles that night. So we're just going to hop straight into the second period, and not too many highlights to show off here, but in that previous skate I talked about keeping the knees together and allowing your pads to overlap while you're moving around and doing your butterflies. I wanted to show the difference in how my movement is this game because I'm actually consciously trying to get my pads to overlap and just trying to bring my knees in just a little bit more. I think it's a little bit subtle to notice, but even making that really small adjustment, this night I probably felt the best I've ever felt moving around the crease. And even dropping the butterflies just felt more stable. I didn't really feel off balance at all. So keeping those knees a little bit closer together and giving it a really good knee bend is going to allow you to move around that crease more efficiently. So I think one of the things that I was confused about when my coach told me that was I was always trying to keep my knees a little bit further apart. First because I wanted to get wider flare and just more coverage on the net. That's because I have really lack of flexibility as an old man now. And I think most of you out there who are older who don't have that flexibility, you just have a tendency to kind of like open your legs more to get more coverage. But when you do that, you end up reaching more and you're not able to move efficiently around the crease because when you're always playing wide, it's really difficult to exert force, and it's actually going to be a lot harder in your joints when your legs are further apart. And the other thing about keeping the knees together a little bit more is just allowing those pads to actually overlap. I remember when I first got my set of butterfly pads, I was always fighting that pad overlap. I just wasn't used to it, coming from a hybrid stand-up style. And after watching those videos of warm-up in the previous skates, you know, of course, as a social media YouTube goalie guy, the first thing I do is see how other goalies are skating, and their pads are always overlapping. So in this evening, I just made a conscious effort to allow my pads to always try and overlap, which meant keeping the knees a bit closer together. Yes, it will lead to a little bit less coverage, but you should have that power and speed from the knees being closer together to be able to push into those shots and not having to jump or reach into them, if that kind of makes sense. Anyway, at the end of the night, we ended up tying the game 6-6. Still looking for my first win with the Direwolves team. I was credited with 39 saves, so it was a fairly busy night, which is awesome. But yeah, so that concludes 4 skates in 6 nights. You know, my body's like aching. This was a 10:30 game. Basically just kind of went home, did a ton of Gatorade, had some protein, and stretched out and just went to bed. So I'm not gonna lie, like playing 4 skates in 6 nights, my body just feels like crap right now. I think I caught a cold from playing so much. I used to play like 3-4 nights consecutively, and that was fine, but I think this year I'm gonna have to kind of like slow things down a little bit. You know, a year older, body kind of like wears down a little bit quicker, unfortunately. But these are some of the things that I usually will do like in between league games, is I'll kind of just film myself during scrimmages. I'll kind of like pick things apart and just see what I can work on in my game to kind of get better, because when you're not working with a coach, you have to kind of be your own coach. So this is what I would do like in between league games, and these are the things that I don't usually show on the channel, but hopefully I'll show some more of this stuff if you guys are interested in it. I could be over analyzing things and kind of like thinking too much about, you know, how I'm playing and stuff like that. What about you? Like, what do you do in between league games when you have long stretches of no ice time? Anyways, we have our next league game coming up pretty soon. I'm still hoping to get that first win of the season with the Direwolves. Hopefully that's gonna come pretty soon. But I'm really excited to add that extra adjustment, keeping my knees together, because it felt really, really good. And I can't wait to hit the ice again. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. And of course, as usual, I'll see you in the next one.